Our guest today is Dr. Tamara Zubati, CEO and founder of Barometer, an AI-driven company that specializes in brand safety and contextual targeting on podcasts. Barometer is a US-based company that analyzes podcast content and helps advertisers to ensure that their ads appear on suitable and brand-safe environment. They also enhance the effectiveness and safety of podcast advertising. Dr. Tamara has a PhD in human-centered computing from the Georgia Institute of Technology. Tamara, welcome to the show and welcome to Dubai.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I am loving it so far. We've been here for about 24 hours and it's already been so amazing. My husband spent some time in his childhood growing up in Abu Dhabi, so it's really exciting for us to come back and see everything.
Yeah, and for you, is it the first time in Dubai?
It is.
Yeah?
It's the very first time, but it won't be the last.
Okay, great. And what do you think so far?
I'm honestly overwhelmed. Everything has just been so nice. Everybody is so nice. I think that's been my biggest thing that I've noticed so far is just how kind everybody has been. I think multiple of our cab drivers have given us their phone numbers.
Great.
And so it's just been amazing.
Yeah, nice, great. So yeah, hope you're gonna enjoy the rest of your stay.
Yes.
Great. So Barometer, your company, secured in the latest round $2.25 million. That was last year in April, and bringing the total funding to over $4 million. How did you do that?
Slowly, not all at once. And excitingly, we just closed another little bit, bringing
congrats.
our total raise, thank you, to about 5, which is crazy. If you had asked me that 5 years ago, I don't know if I would have believed you. I think it happened very slowly and piece by piece. And so looking back, it seems like one coherent story, but in the moment, it felt not quite like that. Our very first check was for $1,000. We won a hackathon. And the lesson from that was go. It was a Saturday morning. My husband at the time, boyfriend, co-founder, was sailing in the Bahamas. He had already graduated and I was not graduated and I was really tired. And he was like, you have to go to this hackathon. I really wanted to go, but I can't go. And it was about Web3. Not very relevant even to what we're doing now. But I went and then I ended up winning the hackathon. And so that was the first kind of support that we received for continuing to incubate the problem. And so I think the biggest kind of lesson from that journey was we probably worked for 18 months on the idea before even trying to get any more support. And then we participated in a bunch of accelerators in our college. So we did an accelerator at UC San Diego called The Basement. And right after we won the first prize money, they were really helpful in helping us incubate the idea, think about the market, really consider all of that. And then it really kind of transformed when we got to Georgia Tech. There, it was COVID and it was kind of the perfect storm. I understand that COVID wasn't awesome for most people. I was very lucky, and I don't think that Barometer would have happened if it wasn't for COVID. But we participated in an accelerator at Georgia Tech and we won that. And that was how we got our first real check. And that was also how we met all of our investors for our seed round was in their demo day. Okay. So it was just many little things, one by one, coming together.
Yeah, that brings me already to my next question, because you mentioned COVID. Podcasting has been on the rise since COVID. Everyone is talking about it. The ad spend or the industry is worth $2 billion this year and expected to reach $2.6 billion by 2026. So my question is, how did you know that podcasting will be a thing before? Because you started your company 6 years ago. So how did you get into podcasting?
Yeah, absolutely. So the company was born around 2017. So Trump had just gotten elected and everybody in my college campus was freaking out. And the news was also kind of freaking out. And so we actually started the company to focus on analyzing news, print news at the time, or digital news online. And we had a Chrome extension that you could use to look at the bias in the news. And so that was how it started. And one of the things that we noticed was the people who were the most critical of the information that they were receiving were leaving mainstream news. And where were they going for their information? They were going to podcasts. And so that was our sign that the people that we respected the most and thought were the smartest were looking to these alternative sources of information. And after looking at them myself, I realized that there was a lot of really interesting stuff happening there. That was one of the factors that caused us to consider podcasting in the future. But really what it was the availability of the content because of real simple syndication, RSS. So if we wanted to analyze the news, and the news is also syndicated via RSS, like newspapers similarly use RSS. And so that was kind of the jump for us, was we were working with news, and then we needed a way to access more content, and podcasting was kind of the synergy with people moving their attention from digital news to podcasting, and also kind of with the world shifting towards podcasting and because of the availability of the content.
Okay. Wow, interesting. What is next for Barometer? I mean, your company is the only company that is doing what you're doing. You founded a company, you're the CEO, you're a leader. What is coming next for Barometer?
Yeah, one of our goals in the podcasting space, and we all love podcasting so much, and I don't want to say this in a mean way, but like we want to make podcasting a little less special. And by that, I just mean breaking down the barriers that prevent traditional advertisers from investing in more traditional ways at the traditional scales. And so we believe that podcast is a great channel, but there have been these critical things that have been missing. And so brand safety has been a factor that, according to many sources from the IAB to national studies and international conversations, brand safety is something that holds advertisers back. And so the next kind of piece is the distribution of that brand safety data into the environments in which traditional advertisers buy. And so I'm really excited to share. I think by the time this airs, this will all be public. But Barometer has been selected as the first integration into the trade desk for audio. Thank you. And so now what that means for advertisers is advertisers will globally be able to use Barometer's targeting in their programmatic buying on the trade desk all around the world in real time. And so, like you mentioned, we're the only ones doing this in the podcast space right now. There's others, but we're the leader for sure. Yeah. But there are analogs in other channels, like Double Verify for CTV, and Zephyr for walled gardens, and Sightly for like YouTube. And so in terms of what's next, it's kind of a big question because we have a lot of decisions to make. And we don't want to boil the ocean and not have a clear focus. So our focus is premium produced media. We think that this recording, this is a produced environment. This isn't the same as UGC. And so that's kind of our theory, and we're pursuing omni-channel premium content. So in addition to podcasting, we're expanding to focus on print and digital news and TV from our partners. Our focus is on growing podcasting while also expanding the way that our contextual technology can be applied to be more inclusive in other channels as well. So two areas where Barometer really leads are in the news and in inclusion of diverse voices. Both of those two groups of content have been historically failed by brand safety technology that's keyword based. And so we believe that what we've done in podcasting, which is the most nuanced of any content type, these 4-hour conversations, that can be so readily applied to conversations on TV that are also premium and of kind of the same caliber to be more inclusive in how these advertisers are able to then target that content.
Okay. And what would you say is the end goal of Barometer? Are you looking to sell the company, exit, maybe get acquired, take a break? What's your thought on that?
The markets are really challenging. I feel like the answer I would have given you 5 years ago is we'd love to go public. And 5 years ago, there were analogous companies that were public. Since then, most of them have been taken private. And so that's a signal to us that it's unlikely that we should pursue trying to go public, and an acquisition is likely in the future. Or that's our exit plan. In terms of acquisition targets, we're pretty open-minded. We're very interested in potentially other measurement vendors like our analogs and other channels that are seeking to enhance their AI capabilities with our IP. Programmatic players like demand-side platforms, even publishers potentially, especially like more omni-channel media publishers. But yeah, there's lots of potential right now. It's a very exciting time. And so we're waiting to see how the programmatic revenue starts going from the trade desk and from some of these other sources. But yeah, it's definitely, it's been about 6 years. So it takes about 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah, okay. But doesn't sound like that you have any plans to retire anytime soon.
No, definitely not. We already have our plans for the next startup, but definitely not retiring.
Okay, great. When I think about myself, when I was in university, I was like kind of lost. I knew I was curious about technology. This is when all the internet companies popped up, and it was for me exciting to have a career there. But I didn't really know what. I mean, I knew I'm gonna, have a corporate career, make a lot of money. So this was like my goal, but I didn't really have any more specifics. How was it for you becoming a CEO? Was that always something you thought about or wanted to become, or did that just happen?
Yeah. I always think about this because I feel like it's like both. Like, I remember growing up, I didn't feel like I wanted the jobs or the lives of anybody that I knew. And I was like, maybe I need to meet more people. And I grew up in a small, like tiny apartment in the biggest city in the Ukraine. And the perspectives and the opportunities that I could have had if I lived there were so different. And so it was kind of just like a constant awakening to all of the different possibilities that could be. And during the process, I was also doing jobs, like regular jobs. Like I was stringing tennis rackets. I was selling solar. I had all of these like funny jobs. And I also had really cool jobs. Like I worked at the Salk Institute, and I did really cool computational neurobiology research. And all of those experiences kind of showed me I could work. I'm a hard worker, so that's good. And then in parallel to that, since I was a child, I'd been keeping like idea notebooks. Like I have this idea, I'll write it down. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Even like making prototype business plans, like little things like that with my friends. I think it was because of the creator economy happening, where we were seeing like kids our age on YouTube making so much money. And we were like, let's make a real company, not just be on YouTube. And so it was always in the back of my mind, but I'd never had a thought that was like, I'm going to start this company and like be a CEO. It wasn't until later that really started to be something that I wanted, but I knew that I was a leader and I wanted to guide progress. And then I was incredibly frustrated when I was on teams and the leader wasn't able to guide the progress. So I think kind of all of those factors helped me want to do this. But I also think that there's a huge difference in terms of the skill set and the character of a founder versus a CEO. And I think that's your next question.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. Like, what do you think, what skills are required, especially for women in the tech industry to succeed?
Yeah. I feel like it's different if you want to start something new or if you want to succeed in the traditional like corporate tech environment. And I don't know the answer to the second question because I haven't done that. From an entrepreneurship perspective, I feel like the biggest thing for the founder stage, we'll do founder stage and then CEO stage. For the founder stage, it's not knowing. Being a novice is actually an advantage because the people that are experts are so biased by their kind of perspectives that they can't see what the next kind of iteration should be. And so I think that fearlessness and the noviceness of the founder perspective, I think that not just women, but men and women alike can share that. For women specifically, I think confidence as a founder is the only thing that matters. And I think that that's one of the biggest differences between how men and women are perceived in fundraising conversations. There's been all this data about how when men apply to jobs, they'll apply to a job even if they don't have all of the criteria.
Skills, yeah.
And women tend not to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's I think the number one thing is confidence for the founder stage. For the CEO stage, I feel like women are probably better CEOs than men. That's a bias, but
I love that.
yes, it's very detail oriented. Like, it's the absolute opposite of being a founder, where you're dreaming big and you're telling stories and you're building. It's much more spreadsheets and spreadsheets.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're juggling both at the same time. What else do you do to balance all of that?
Yeah. I'm like a health nut. I'm really interested and passionate about health. I like to eat clean, so I like to cook a lot. I'm really interested in learning more about that. I like to exercise. I really like art. So I really like living in New York. I feel like it supports kind of the diversity of things that I need to feel stimulated. And we take breaks. You can't always be performing at your best if you don't take care of yourself. And so, yeah, I think those are all important things.
Yeah, I agree with that. You need to have sometimes just a little break, step back a little bit and come back with more energy, refreshed mind to be able to continue. So, yeah.
And I think it's also worth noting, like, I founded this company with my husband. At the time, we were partners, and now, like, we help each other a lot with finding that balance and making sure that we're still taking time for us, while also understanding that there's absolutely no boundaries when it comes to being a startup founder. And, like, it's Sunday morning, we're here. Before this, we were working, like, people joke that, like, they don't want to work a 9 to 5, so they start a startup.
Yeah.
And then you're just working 24/7.
Yeah. True. Okay, so you started Barometer with your husband. I'm sure a lot of people or couples out there, they might have an idea, but how did that happen? What were the challenges? I'm sure there are challenges, or there were challenges, but tell us.
Yeah, I feel like starting something with your partner seems so natural, just because you probably have shared interests and passions and a lot in common. And then I think it just kind of comes down to the challenges, which are numerous. I always joke that the reason that our relationship works is we have opposite sleep schedules. Okay. Like, I sleep and he doesn't sleep. But that's something, like, low key that helped us when we were first starting, because there were like 12 hours a day when I couldn't yell at him when he was just working without me. I think the biggest challenge is, like, boundaries. The thing that you can do with when you're starting with your partner something is you can work 24/7 and you are constantly around one another. And that's kind of required at that time. So if you're not dating your partner or your co-founder, you're probably, like, co-living with them anyway, because you're constantly working. And so from that perspective, it was actually really convenient. Another thing that's really interesting is, like, you never are as mean to the people you don't know as to the people that you know and love. And so learning how to communicate more clearly, and the way that I would communicate to somebody who isn't like my husband when I'm talking to him about work, I think that that's, like, really important. Like, I always check myself, like, would I ever say this to anybody else? And if the answer to that is no, then I probably shouldn't say it to him as well. So I think that also helps me be a better leader with other employees as well. And then the last one is something that we still struggle with, because it's sometimes not possible, but, like, trying to have some kind of boundaries. We have, like, certain client names who we, like, don't say between, like, 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. That's usually, like, the little window. But yeah, I would say it's a constantly evolving thing, but we're really grateful to be able to do it together, and we're both here right now, and that's amazing.
Yeah, so there have never been time where you wanted to kill each other.
Every day.
Okay.
Most days there's a moment.
Yeah, you overcome that every day. Okay.
I feel like that's true even for, like, if you don't have a company together.
True. I can imagine. About your investors, how do they perceive you two as a couple of basically the founders of Barometer?
Yeah, it's definitely something that's like not always smiled upon in VC culture. I feel like we were lucky in that one of the first, the fund that led our pre-seed round, they're called Outlander Labs, and they're actually a husband-wife managing director partner duo. And so they didn't see it as a negative, and we never really realized that it was because they didn't ever bring it up. And it actually wasn't until, and we weren't married yet. We were just dating. And then when we were raising our next round, we were married. And this last round that we raised in the beginning of last year. And we actually had an investor that was like, you have to put like your divorce details into like what are you gonna do if you get divorced, or like all of these questions. And the investor was like, well, I'm divorced. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to do with that. But we actually like didn't, they weren't interested because we were married.
Wow.
And so it's definitely a dynamic, but I would say that if you find the right investors that can actually understand you and your vision and what you're doing, that shouldn't be a blocker for them. So it's almost like something to look out for. If somebody's saying no to you on that basis, you probably don't want to work with them.
Yeah. Talking about the topic of AdTech and AI, how do you think AI can be better leveraged to promote diversity, and especially within tech teams and leadership roles?
Yeah. I think that so AI, people think that like when you're using AI, you just need like an AI engineer to make the model and then it's done. And I think that there's actually like a lot of work that needs to be done to make the AI work. And so my PhD was in human-centered computing. People are like, what is that? And it is that.
I asked the same.
Exactly.
I had to Google it.
It's the realization that it's not enough to just build the algorithm. And I think that the great opportunity for AI is diversifying and personalization. And so making that more scalable is extremely promising. But in order for it to actually happen, the people in leadership need to also represent that variety and the diversity. And so I think that it's kind of like a complex issue because of so many factors. The AI itself could be biased because the training data is biased. The integration of the AI could be not optimal to support the humans involved. And so I think that in order for AI to be more democratizing, rather than just continuing to kind of raise the tech people, I really think that it requires an ecosystem, a socio-technical ecosystem of people and technologies. And so I think that that's really the opportunity for women and for leaders, is to take on that challenge of being that ecosystem and then actually integrating those AI solutions so that you have some say in how they're happening and you have the ability to give that feedback back into that system.
And how do you stay on top of the latest trends and innovation in tech and in AI, about emerging technologies? How do you stay on top of that?
I read a lot. I also listen to a ton of podcasts. I try to consume, I want to say like 20 hours of media a week.
Okay.
Usually that. I'm also in like university spaces, so I get access to things as they're happening. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite podcast?
Oh my gosh.
Or which ones are you listening to the most?
I love the All In podcast. I like Giggly Squad as my like chill podcast. I really like Pivot with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway because it provides some ideological balance to the All In podcast. And I'm a big politics person. I love political content on both sides, and I love to experience kind of the back and forth. So I spend some time listening to political stuff as well.
Okay, great. That's why Barometer analyzing political content. Yeah, I see the bridge.
Yes.
Okay.
You asked earlier about why podcasting and our media in the US, people say like we don't have a state-sponsored media because we have like freedom of speech, but we have two state-sponsored medias. We have the left one and the right one.
Yeah.
And so podcasting was fun and interesting because it was kind of purple. So it was like red and blue, but in podcasting it's actually really hard to say like definitively like you are one side or the other because people tend to entertain ideas in a longer format. yeah, I just think that that's really interesting in our culture today, where people are going on like Twitter and all of these like places where they're reducing everything to have that long form.
Yeah. Okay. So the show is about women, inspiring women that I either met throughout my career or that have personally inspired me or I look up to. And my question to you is, and also for the audience, what advice would you give to women who maybe are just about to start their career, are interested in tech and AI and engineering, or maybe any male-dominated area? What advice would you give these women?
I would say two things. One thing is about listening to advice, and one thing is about networking. So the first thing is about networking. Um, you can find allies all around you who will help progress you. Because in order for you to advance, you need to be brought up in rooms that you're not in. You need people to advocate for you, to think of you, to suggest you when you're not there. And I think that that is really hard, but also like possible. And so I think networking and making connections with people, like for example, your boss or somebody that you look up to, just reaching out to them and having a coffee. It might not lead to anything at all, but you never know. And I would say like most of the things that have happened for me partially were because I put myself out there and I met the person and I went for the coffee. The second part is about taking advice. Don't take advice from anybody that's not those people. Those people are the people that you want to be. So I would say don't take advice from people who you don't want to be.
Okay, thank you. That's very good advice. And I think with the networking, I mean, worst case that can happen is you're just having coffee with someone, which is also nice, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And then another question about women and tech, advice for women. What changes or improvements do you believe need to happen within the tech industry to support more women reaching leadership roles?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing here is about flexible work. And so like women tend to be caregivers, whether they're taking care of parents or children or both. And I think that during COVID, it was actually kind of interesting because women were home and everybody was home. And now that there's kind of return back to the office, I feel like that disproportionately favors men. Like, is as a joke, we say that like the only reason back to office is happening is because like corporate men hate their real lives, and so they need to leave the house.
They need to escape.
Exactly. And I think like that would just make a huge difference. I heard this. I didn't come up with this. I heard this on a podcast. But the like Amazon bringing everybody back to 5 days a week. I think that could really hurt women at Amazon unless they're able to provide like full-time care for their kids or do something else to better support that. But I do think that historically, tech has this like culture, the tech bro culture, and it's like this hyper productive, you're sleeping at the office, like it's a really unbalanced lifestyle, and I don't think that it's very realistic. And I think that it's totally possible to do amazing work and still have a life and be a little bit more balanced. So I do think that that's really one of the things that's holding women back in the tech space today.
Yeah. I believe Barometer then also offers flexible working hours, working remotely. Okay.
Yeah, so it's foundational to our story. Our principal AI engineer is this woman named Divya Palaniswamy. She's phenomenal. Before she worked at Barometer, she worked at NASA. No big deal. She's like so smart. She's so incredible. She had a 3-year gap in her resume because she decided to have a daughter. All of the auto resume graders at Facebook and all of the companies just failed her. And it was just so stupid. Like, and she says like she has some family in India and she'll go back for the summer for a month and she'll work from there. I don't care as long as the work gets done. And so I do think that carrying that like work from anywhere, remote first culture has helped us attract and retain the best talent. And I think that that's a sign for others to consider that if you don't adjust to their requirements, they'll leave because they can.
Yeah. Looking back at your career, the Tamara of today, what would you tell the Tamara of 10 years ago? Or what advice would you give her?
Gosh, I think so this year, 10 years ago, I graduated high school. And I really wanted to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I could go back, and I would tell myself it's okay that you failed chem. Uh, and it's okay that if you're not a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I think just like giving my old self that permission to not be so hard on myself for those expectations that I had. I think that would have been a really nice thing to do. And then another thing that I would have thought about is just being more open-minded. I felt like I was very judgmental of people who weren't highly technical. I didn't even know advertising existed. And I didn't know that advertising was as technical as it is. And so, yeah, I think that's another thing, is be a little bit more open-minded and less judgmental of other people so that you can learn more about what you don't yet understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And is there anything that you regret?
Of
Or
course.
you should have done you should have done differently? What is it?
I don't know. It's really hard to say any like one thing looking back on it now, because it feels like it was all meant to be. So no, honestly, no regrets.
Good. Great. How do you reconnect with yourself? How do you balance your life?
Yeah. It's definitely like cyclical, and there's some weeks where I feel like I'm like totally flying off the rails and it's really crazy. I think I'm a yoga teacher. So Grant and I both became yoga teachers right after we graduated college. And I think like that skill set and that philosophy, yoga philosophy, is really helpful for me to be grounded. The practices of just like meditation, of doing the same thing, even if I'm going to have a really crazy day, sun salutation will always be a sun salutation. You know, like just having those things that you can come back to that allow you to do the same thing and just reflect on, I'm doing the same thing, but I feel different. What's going on? And I'm not naturally very in touch with my feelings. So having these physical outlets to do that and to kind of work through it, I think that really helps me. One of the craziest times of this was when I had a third job at the same time as getting my PhD and being the startup founder, co-founder with my husband. It was when we were planning our wedding.
Oh, wow.
And I had a therapist at the time, and my therapist like sucked. And she would almost make me feel worse because I would be like asking her for feedback, and she's like, I think your life is like going great. And I'd be like, no, it's fine, but like this and this. And so I feel like I can't afford the therapist that I need at this point. So I take what I can get, and I seek mentorship. And so I have a couple of mentors who like help me in different things. Like one of my mentors is really solely focused around mindset and like that founder mentality and giving me the tools that I need. And so I think, yeah, just taking those little pieces anywhere you can get them.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Tamara, thank you so much for coming on my show.